few minutes for a retired Spanish teacher from John Jay High School that passed away. A moment of silence for her, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We can move on to 4.01, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you very much, President McFarland, members of the Board of Education, members of the Wappingers learning community. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting this evening, and we are very, very proud and pleased to have with us the John Jay Future Farmers of America. I have been following them, as many of us have, for the past few years, and commend them for all of the work that they've done, not only in our community, but throughout the county and throughout the state. It's absolutely a fantastic program. They've won many awards. If you've followed the district social media, you've probably seen much of it. And I'd like to introduce one of the advisors, Mrs. McFarland. Mrs. McFarland, if you would like to come up and you would like to talk about John Jay FFA or bring up members of your team, the floor is now yours. And then I know you have some items for the Board of Education, and once the presentation is ended, we'll disperse those items.
Okay,
Thank you.
If I could just interject for one moment, that is not my wife. That is my sister-in-law.
So last year we presented as advisors, but this year we thought it'd be nice if the students actually did the presentation. So I'd like to introduce Matthew Mulligan and Sophia Seifert.
Thank you so much. Is this okay? Can you?
Yeah.
A little volume.
I got you. Yep, we're getting there.
We're
Everything.
getting there.
Thank you, my friend. We should be good.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So like you said before, we are John Jay FFA. I'm Sophia Seifert. I'm one of the co-presidents.
My name.
So first off, also another thing too is these are just some of the events we've done this year. It's not all of them, but if we said all of them, we'd probably be here for a while. Starting off, this is one of our field trips that we've done, our first field trip of the year, which was, we went to 2 different dairy farms within our county, one being Jenna Lawrence's farm. She's a part of our FFA. We just went to these farms and we got a tour. We saw the cows, we got milk. It was great. MJ took her animal science class, her plant science class, and also FFA members.
So this is when we were at the District 2 leadership competitions. We have 2 different types of competitions. These ones are the leadership and development events, where our members can either present as a group or individually, either an issue in agriculture that they have chosen, or they could do an event called Creed Speaking, which is more of like, it's pretty much a memorization and presentation where you learn and memorize a series of paragraphs that you then have to present, and it pretty much talks about all of the different like fundamental roots of FFA. But these members, I believe all of them competed. We had 2 groups move on to the next stage for agricultural issues. Every year the FFA has like a national FFA week,
where there are like kind of activities or things throughout the week that they do. So in our school, we celebrated it, and we did a bunch of different things on throughout the different days. So we had a day where we all wore FFA jackets. We did a day where we wear FFA apparel, things like that. And so throughout that week, we also decided to do a duck hunt. So we hid these little rubber duckies all throughout the school, and we had our FFA members like search throughout the school, try to find the ducks. And when they did, they would return it to the officers or the advisors and would get a piece of candy at the end of the week. So I don't know, this was kind of to help get our members, more interactive with the school and start searching and things like that.
So the New York State Leaders Experience was something held earlier in February, where I was allowed to go to Albany and meet with different state senators and assemblymen. But pretty much while I was there, FFA held pretty much like a conference with members from all across the state, and pretty much went through the entire legislative process of bringing in a bill, developing, and like eventually passing it. But while I was there, I was able to meet with Senator Rob Rollison as well as Assemblyman Anil Beepan. While we were there, the main goal of FFA was to try and introduce a new bill that would pretty much support agriculture education throughout the state and pretty much give more incentive for school districts to involve that. So at our Eastern Substates competitions, all the members that successfully competed at the district level and moved on, this is where they would compete to eventually go to states. We had the two groups from agricultural issues compete at this. Sadly, neither of them were able to move on to states. However, they were both very competitive and very well prepared for this event.
So for Ag Literacy Week, we decided to go to Sheaf Road Elementary School, and we read a book called I Love Strawberries to the kindergarten classes. So this is one of the classrooms with the kindergartners, with Matthew and a few of our other members who are no longer in the club this year anymore. But this was us reading the book to them, and then afterwards, we did an activity where we helped them. We couldn't get strawberry seeds, but we did help them plant flower seeds, and then they were able to keep those in the classroom and then take them home with them, kind of to teach them a little bit about ag.
So every year we attend the Dutchess County Agricultural Breakfast, at which other chapters in our county go to, and other important figures in agriculture, such as members of the Agricultural Board. While we're there, there's different speakers that talk about the different possible issues or things they're trying to overcome in agriculture, such as like possibly expanding farmland and like developing that. While we're there, we were able to have a breakfast pretty much. So they provide different like pancakes, French toast, but while we're there, they have all those speakers come up and pretty much like talk about what's happening in our county with agriculture.
And this is our Spring Fest. So in the picture, this was last year, so that was our second year holding this event. This year is going to be our third. And basically, it's like a big farmer's market where we have different businesses in the community. They can come and pay for a parking spot, and then they can sell whatever it is that their business usually sells. And then we also had a bunch of the clubs in the school participate, and they could sell things if they wanted to, or just do crafts or things to just get their name out there to the community. So this also acts as a fundraiser, and the money that we get from this fundraiser not only funds FFA, but it also helps us to pay for state convention for all of our members so that they can go free.
Speaking of the state convention, last year and the year before that, it was in Buffalo. And so that's a far distance. So through our fundraising, we all had to take a bus from all the way over here to Buffalo, which is like 8-hour drive. But once we were there for about 3 days, and it was full of competitions, events, workshops, where we had a bunch of different members participate in. One of them was the FFA Vet Science team, which I was a member of. We had moved on to the second portion of the competition, which includes the top 20 teams out of about 60. So we were able to both develop our skills of test taking, but also of vet science, and then also a practical portion. This is one of the Days of Service events. So I believe that this was made for, so we had members go there and they created vases of pretty much just like little flowers. And I believe they were sent to either, what's it, hospital? Yeah. They were donated to one of the local hospitals there. So it's pretty much just, the Day of Service includes pretty much doing anything that would involve giving to the community.
So this is another fundraiser we do. It's called Tea Time with the Alpacas. This is held by Andrea, and she owns Cloverbrook Farms. She also works very closely with 4-H. So this was a fundraiser that FFA and 4-H did together, where basically we had people, usually on Mother's Day, would sign up to come, and they would have tea with like their family or whoever they signed up to be there with. And then afterwards they would go outside and like be able to be with like the alpacas, the llamas, and sometimes there was bunnies there, things like that. And so all the proceeds from this fundraiser went half to FFA and half to 4-H.
So this was another one of our field trips that we went on later in the year. This was a trip to a horse farm where we were able to pretty much take a tour of how the entire farm worked, where everything was. So we went to this stable, and here there was also a vet that was called to show us pretty much about equine dentistry and their like kind of upper digestion and well, entire digestion system. So we were able to watch that vet do a procedure where they were actually putting a scope down the esophagus. So we were able to see inside the stomach, and that was like a really cool experience that all the members were able to have. There was also a member of, yeah, there was a nutritionist there that had pretty much gone through how big and complex the horse digestive system was, and it's like around 100 feet long, if not more.
So finally, we just want to thank you guys so much for all the support that you have given us throughout the years and also for having us today. So we do have gifts, but before I end, I also wanted to introduce Mr. Imperati.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andy Imperati. I'm the president and CEO of the Dutchess County Fair. Your students are part of a huge organization in this country that is over 1 million strong, and I'm not sure you're aware of that. FFA was started in 1928 in this country to prepare young people to feed the rest of us. Today, there's over 1 million kids enrolled in FFA throughout the country. It is the largest student-run organization in the nation. These kids, their horizons have been expanded by you letting this program exist in your district. That is a testament to your giving back to the people in your district. Congratulations. Lastly, I would like to say you have fair royalty in your student body this year. At the fair this year, children compete to be the champion showman of the fair. Now, your student, Jenna Lawrence, comes from a dairy farm. This year, she had to show all the other species to be crowned master showman. And she did that on Sunday morning of the fair. She showed a dairy cow, a beef cow, a goat, a hog, and a lamb, and beat the other kids in those species to become supreme champion of the Dutchess County Fair. That's just the tip of the iceberg for where these children are going because of this program. Congratulations on supporting it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. We're gonna be passing out the gifts now. Hope you like them.
Congratulations. And I still have my plan from last year alive. Would you like to check that out? And I want to thank you because 3 of us followed you to Albany the day after you were there, and you were very happy to follow.
So just so you all know, as you open those up, they're going to be little planters with our FFA logo on it. And there should be a little puck to be used as your soil along with seeds for basil plants. So that way you can enjoy basil and think of us all year long.
Thank you.
So once again, I would like to thank the John Jay FFA for all of the efforts and the fine representation that they provide throughout New York State of the Wappinger Central School District. I often speak with my colleagues from areas that are more rural in Southern Dutchess County, and they are absolutely amazed as to the talent, the intensity that John Jay FFA has and exudes throughout all of these competitions. Mr. Emperati, I'd like to thank you for being here. You provide great opportunities out at the fairgrounds. I'd like to thank members of our community for providing these opportunities as well. When we talk about career and technical education, that also includes agricultural education. All right? Right, Mr. Hancock? Absolutely. So again, this is another way in which the Wappinger Central School District supports these types of career opportunities for our students. Not necessarily ones that require additional schooling after they leave high school. It may, but it may not. For those of you that are here right now, if you could just raise your hand, how many of you have participated in this program and it has really opened your eyes up to agricultural education and given you an idea of what you would like to do after high school? Just by a raise of your hands. Fantastic. That is what it is all about. So again, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank your advisors. I'd like to thank the John Jay administration. I'd like to thank your parents. You've done a phenomenal job. And with that, Let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you. The fact that you have provided this to the Board of Education shows how important you feel that this Board of Education is. And I'm up here every board meeting saying exactly what you're showing. We are very fortunate in this district. We have 9 dedicated individuals who truly have the best interests of students at heart. There's absolutely no question about that. And they do it, and they are not compensated for all of their time. So not only do you see them here at these meetings, but you see them at events. You see them throughout the community. You know who they are, and that's extremely important. So as superintendent, I want to thank our Board of Education for their continued support. If it weren't for them, we would not be able to provide programs such as this. So on behalf of you and everyone that's out here in the audience, members of our senior staff, can we give the Board of Education a round of applause? Thank you again.
Thank you, Superintendent. And speaking as the President of the Board, for the Board, we will continue to support programs like this in our district to advance the education of our students. Thank you. Moving on to 4.02, School Board Recognition Week, October 14th, 16th, 2024. No, communications, I'm sorry. Communications 5.01, communications on agenda items. Anyone signed in for agenda items? Okay, we will waive the reading. 5.02, communication announcements received by the Board of Education. Yes, Marie.
So this past week, Trustee Miggins and myself have been able to get out to a few games, and I would like to thank both high schools. We were able to go to Royce Ketchum on Thursday night and cheered them on to a resounding, I think it was their 3rd or 4th victory, which we're very proud of. And then on Sunday, we were able to follow up in the rain in about 50 degrees. It was a little cold and wet, but we were very determined to watch John Jay finally win a game, and we were very proud of them. They did an amazing job. And I would like to point out that this coming Sunday, the John Jay cheerleaders are hosting their game day event on the turf field at John Jay. For anybody that would like to go, we won't be able to make it. We'll be in New York City at a convention, but I would like to say that that game is coming up, and next week is Royce Ketchum's homecoming game on Friday the 25th.
Sorry, Peggy?
Last Thursday, I represented our school district at the New York State School Boards Association business meeting. This year, it finished in less than 6 hours, which was a vast improvement over last year, which went almost 8 hours. There's a complete report of the results on the message that was sent to you from NYSSBA. But just to summarize, all the ones that were recommended by the resolutions conference were passed. The resolution number 8, the amendment was passed. On number 11, the amendment failed. I spoke on behalf of our district on resolutions 8, 14, and 16. And the ones that were suggested by districts, but that were not approved by the resolutions of the conference, only one passed, number 35, which dealt with security. A couple of them were very close votes, but most of them didn't even get 2/3 or 3/4. And if anyone would like to know about a specific resolution, I'll be glad to tell you.
Cheryl, I'm sorry.
Yes, as trustee Johnson mentioned, both John Jay and RCK had resounding football wins this weekend. Ketchum beat Yonkers Force 31-0, and Jay beat New Rochelle 28-16. Also last week, the RCK girls volleyball team hosted the John Jay girls volleyball team for their pink out, where Senator Serino was the honored guest. The night before, RCK hosted John Jay for a field hockey game for their senior night, where all of the senior field hockey players were acknowledged with their families. On the 8th, both RCK and John Jay cross-country teams participated in the league meet at Bowdoin Park, and the following athletes finished in the top 14 to become members of the All-League team. For RCK boys, Matthew Kowalczyk, Isaac Menjivar, George Soika, Adam Gazal. For the girls, from RCK, Abby Kowalczyk and Elizabeth Del Rosso, and from John Jay, Peyton Matessino and Allison Lubenheimer. This weekend, the RCK cross-country team went to Saratoga to participate in the prestigious Burnt Hills Invitational, and several of the students medaled. For the varsity girls, Abby Kowalczyk came in 3rd overall. She and Elizabeth Del Rosso medaled. For the varsity boys, Isaac Menjivar, Matthew Kowalczyk, and Adam Gazal medaled. And for the freshman girls, I apologize, I don't have last names, but Uretzi, Haley, and Kirat all medaled for the girls.
Thank you for that, Cheryl. Mark, do you have anything?
I wanted to thank Trustee Callan for her support for the resolutions that were advocated for by this board. I can see that it made a great deal of difference. So thank you for supporting our board, our district, with items that we feel are fundamentally important to education in general. So I want to thank you for that.
Eddie?
Just real quick, on October 5th, Trustee Johnson and I, along with Superintendent Bach, attended the John Jay Hall of Fame athletic induction for graduates from 2009 and 2010. So just once again, congratulations to those students that graduated that were inducted into the John Jay Hall of Fame. Also, Trustee Johnson had mentioned that next Friday night is the RCK homecoming football game. But just to let everybody know that prior to the football game, RCK will be having their Hall of Fame inductions as well.
Thank you for all that information. Anyone else? Moving along, 6.01, budget calendar presentation, Dr. Dwight Bonk.
Yeah, you want to breathe? Yeah, do we have a clicker? Oh, yep. You've got the clicker.
Thank you, Director Schouten. Good evening, everyone. Brief presentation on the budget process. Yes, we are beginning the budget process to be voted on next May. It is October. You can never start too early. I'm going to summarize the budget calendar this evening. And notice the title of this, the theme of this year is Building Our Future Together. Members of our Board of Education, President Mike McFarland, Vice President Eddie A. Sloshower, Trustee Virgil Capillari, Trustee Cheryl Miggets, Trustee Marie Johnson, Trustee John S. Morgan, Trustee Peggy Callan, Trustee Keith Odoms, Trustee John Lumia. Members of our senior staff administration, Darren Lokema, Assistant Superintendent for Administration and Information Systems, Dr. Michelle Cardwell, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Ms. Kristen Dainty, Assistant Superintendent of Finance, Business Development and the Financial Guru, Mr. Richard Zip, Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services, Ms. Renee Harris, Executive Director of Human Resources, Ms. Julia Montoya, Executive Director of Special Education, our Director of Facilities, Mr. Ronald Rose, and the District Clerk and Secretary to the Superintendent, Ms. Alberta Pedro, all intricately involved in the development of the budget for 25-26. So what is the process? Well, on November the 4th, there will be a virtual presentation that will be released. And then again on February the 24th of 2025, there will be a virtual presentation released once again that will have more updated information than the one that will be released next month. And that will be presented in both English and Spanish. When is the budget vote? It is May 20th of 2025. Official work begins on the budget after approval of the budget development calendar by the Board of Education, which hopefully will be approved this evening. What do we look at? We look at equipment requests, potentially new staffing, programming and services, proposals for new curriculum, in-service work, as well as work during the course of the summer. As we know, even though our school calendar is 10 months, we provide services and programs for our students year-round. And we have more that are taking advantage of it every year that we've been able to provide that. We will continue, hopefully, to provide that. That would be my recommendation. So what are the next steps? Refer to the board. When we build the budget, it is a collaborative effort. It needs to reflect the core values and the mission statement of the Wappinger Central School District. Account for administrative goals. It needs to have the awareness of community expectations addressed at all of our schools. So the news, not the news, but the email is budget@wcsdny.org. budget@wcsdny.org. Let us know as a community what your priorities are and the programs and services that you would like to see provided for our students. We also need to thoroughly evaluate the overall economic climate, both locally and nationally, and as we have done for the past few years and prior, we need to make sure that we plan for our future when we develop these budgets. And that, of course, is based on any information that is available, as well as any estimates that are provided to the district. Utilize the Board of Education meetings for community input. So we look forward again to hearing from our community. What are your priorities? What programs and services do you believe that our students need? We continue to share information with the Board of Education, and collectively we build a preliminary budget, and we have Board of Education study sessions as needed. It's important to include revenue funding sources in the general fund balance discussions, such as any stimulus dollars, state projections, tax compliance with the tax cap, alternate funding sources, payments in lieu of taxes and pilots. And as you know, we have received a number and we hope to continue to receive grants as we move forward. What are not part of the budget process, however, they will determine programs and services that we're able to provide, and a discussion on any possible referendums that may be added to the ballot. We have questions from the Board of Education and the community, of course. We move through the process, and this budget at WCSDNY.org is open. We look forward again to your participation. We continue to share this information with our local municipalities during the course of the year in meetings. We will continue to share with our community through videos and meetings that will share budget building knowledge. And before we know it, the state mandated budget public hearing will be on May the 12th, 2025 at Royce C. Ketchum High School. What are the components of the budget? General support, instruction, transportation, undistributed. Again, as I've mentioned, we need feedback, not only from our Board of Education, but from our community. We respond to information as it is provided through the state as well as other funding sources. That information is provided to the Board of Education in a manner that is clear, concise, and transparent. And I think it's important to mention that. When we indicate whatever number we choose in terms of a percentage increase, and I am hopeful that we will continue to be below the cap, and I don't know that yet because we don't know the funding that we're getting. I hope the community realizes that we have to have a balance, again, between things that are fiscally responsible, yet also provide our students with the services and programs that they need, and we will continue to do that. We will work within our administration to refine the data and estimates as they come in, and then obviously the final step will be to evaluate and reflect on the process. Budget information for the past 6 years? 8 years, thank you, is on our website. I would ask you to please look and compare and contrast those budgets to see what the increases have been, areas that have been increased, areas that may have been decreased, and again, that will help to formulate for you what you believe as a community are the priorities that you have for the programs and services that we provide for our students. So, the official calendar, explaining the budget process, we mentioned that. That'll be a video that'll be coming out on November the 4th. Preliminary budget presentation number 1, February 10th. Then there will be a video explaining the budget process. That will be both in English and Spanish. That will be on February the 24th. Then, on March the 10th, the recommended budget presentation and transportation proposition presentation will occur. April 7th, superintendent's recommended budget presentation 2. Hopefully by that time we'll have a fairly good idea as to the amount of finance we will be receiving through New York State. 22nd of April, the recommended budget presentation, the ballot presentation, and the budget adoption. The ballot presentation to the community will be on May the 5th at John Jay High School, and then the community forum, the state mandated public hearing on the budget, Royce C. Ketchum High School, on the 12th of May, with the budget vote to occur on May the 20th of 2025. So with that, I want to thank you for your time. Very, very important budget year. We've been able to provide significant enhancements to the programs and services as well as our building infrastructure. And we've made a number of repairs in those areas. And we are hopeful that in this budget, we can come together collaboratively to craft a budget that will address those needs moving forward. And with that, I want to thank you for your time. I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Bunk.
Thank you, President McFarland.
Excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dainty.
Thank you for standing by, Ms. Dainty. Moving on to 6.02, approval of the budget development calendar for 2025.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the budget development calendar for the 2025 school district budget vote and board member election, as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Business Development to the Superintendent of Schools.
Motion. Peggy, second by Mr. Lumia. Any questions? All in favor? Keith? Yep, unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. 6.03, Special Education 3-Year Plan, Julia Montoya.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Very low.
So thank you so much to the members of the board as well as to the community. Today I'll briefly be discussing the special education plan, which is for 3 years. I'll review a little bit, but there are a number of pages in it. Copies have been provided to the board, and certainly some of it is consistent with previous school years. Some of the things that have remained consistent, just sharing, are certainly, the response to intervention or how special education processes work. All of those pieces remain the same. Regulations, guidance, different acronyms that are utilized. Again, all of those pieces remain the same. Some of the things I wanted to address today are our assistant directors. We do have 9 of them now. I'll start with Mrs. Christina Martinez. She's the Assistant Director of Special Education for, sorry. How do I?
No, I have to do it all.
Oh, you have to do it, sorry. Thank you. Christina Martinez is the Assistant Director of Special Education for Royce Ketchum and students from Royce Ketchum that are at Orchard View Alternative High School. Karen Brown is the Assistant Director for John Jay, as well as students from John Jay that are at Orchard View Alternative High School. Ms. Desiree Hoffbauer is the Assistant Director of Special Education for Vassar, Kinry, Oak Grove, and private parochial schools. Ms. Shayna Cruz is the Assistant Director of Special Education for Wappingers Junior High School and most out-of-district programs. Ms. Lauren Broadbelt is the Assistant Director of Special Education for Preschool Department this year. Mr. Chad Richter is responsible for Van Wyck Junior High School, as well as BOCES and Green Chimneys. Mrs. Amanda Watson is responsible for Evans Elementary School, Sheaf, and Fishkill Elementary School. Mrs. Michelle O'Gara is responsible for Gayhead Elementary School and Fishkill Plains. And Mrs. Michelle Costabile is responsible for Myers Corners and Breakerhoff. So again, those are additional. We have 9 altogether. As mentioned, so this is the table of contents, and as you keep going, there will be a parent letter. Again, just some simple adjustments with regards to supporting our students and continuing to work to enhance our programs and services that are provided. As indicated, I'm going to skip around just a little bit because some of the other pieces remain the same. So with regards to the regulations for Part 200s, the special education processes, those all remain the same. I really want to capture, Art, if you don't mind going to page 14, please. I'd really like to capture some of the changes in our programs. I will say that from the last special education plan till now, we did open self-contained language-based class at Kinry Road. So they are supporting grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, just like Gayhead. We are trying our best to ensure that our programs on the north and south end of the district are similar as much as possible. So we're offering opportunities to all of our students across the district. In addition to that, we have had a number of hires between special education teachers to support our various classrooms and or related service staff members. Again, seeing such an increase across the board in speech, OT, PT, and our other related service areas. New coming into this school year, we have added the integrated ICT Plus program. At this point in time, we have 1 class at Fishkill Plains, and it supports grade 4. Again, for our students that we are working hard to keep in district that have cognitive strengths, but might need a little bit more social emotional supports. And we are hopeful that that program will expand on the south and north end of the district. We have also opened a self-contained 3-4 class at Myers Corners this year, again with some of the increased needs of our students regarding whether it's low academics or behavioral. We've been doing our best to try to address all those needs, and it made the most sense this school year to open that class at Myers. Some of the other things that have kind of remained the same are indicated above. So K through 6, we have related service-only programs, resource room, ICT continuums at our various schools, our self-contained communications classes, as well as our self-contained language base. Junior high and high school programs, again, offer the myriad of support services from resource room all the way to our intensive class programs. We have, along Assistant Superintendent Richard Zibb, as I mentioned before, that we've worked diligently to hire new staff members. We have increased our people personnel staff. So again, that is very heavily involved in both special education and supporting our general education students. Let's see. The rest of the packet really is more about definitions of our programs, from resource room to consultant teacher to related services. I really kind of, before I kind of wrap up and ask the board if they have any questions, want to discuss a little bit of what I see us moving forward to in the future. You know, there might be questions about what's going to happen to our self-contained 3-4 class at Myers and how will those students be supported in grades 5 through 6. So there's been a lot of thought on that. We may be creating a continuum at Myers, and that will be up for further discussion, especially since our needs across the district have grown. And although we don't want to hear that word of COVID anymore, we're certainly still feeling those impacts. And the special education team, the assistant directors, have been working really diligently to address family concerns and student needs, work alongside their administrators to ensure that we're having programs in place and services that make sense for our students, working to, you know, be able to declassify students as appropriate when we've seen strengths, as our students have been showing success, especially as they move into the high school with attending honors programs and such. So there's still a lot of continued work in special education with regards to the programs, the continuum of services. I'm hopeful that as we get through this work, we'll be able to really pinpoint what other needs there might be. Our end goal is really to have our students remain in district as much as possible. So creating any programs that make the most sense and being able to support them is our goal. That is about all I have for this evening, but certainly I'll open up to any questions that the board might have.
Thank you very much. Do you have any idea of what our special needs have increased?
So our main increases have really been seen on kind of two ends. We've had a lot of students coming in with very low cognitive impairments. So some of our students are showing cognitive skills between 60s and 70s, which if you're looking at the span, 90 to 109 is considered average. So we're trying to support our lower functioning students in figuring out the best programs to help them with. And then there has been a great increase behaviorally. So this goes from preschool, when they age in, all the way up until the high school. We have seen a lot of shifts in social emotional needs, an increase in diagnoses, whether they're on the autistic spectrum or we're looking at a lot of more obsessive, kind of defiance, behaviors that are kind of impacting success. There's been, you know, I've made some observations of students from K to 3 this school year so far, a lot of things like biting or scratching or inability to understand how they should be in a class setting. Some of them have been in preschool programs, others have struggled. especially with some of the lack of programs in the county. So there's been a lot of work there too. We've been reaching out to the state, having discussions about the help that's needed. Some of these kiddos are coming in without any supports previously. So we're trying to manage that in a school setting now for them, and they missed a lot of years in preschool. So I would say that that's been our most need, just really their functioning and then behaviors.
Thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Bond.
Thank you, President McFarland. Mrs. Montoya, I'd like to thank you for your presentation this evening. I think it's important to share with the board and with the community that our special education population since COVID has increased by approximately how many percent? Do you know offhand?
I believe we went about 2 to 3%. So
3%.
it's gone up to about, right? 300.
So about 300 students. The result of that has been that we have added an additional 20 special education teachers over the last 3 years to be able to ensure that we provide those students with the services and the programs that they need. As you indicate, Mrs. Montoya, it's very, very challenging sometimes to find programs that meet the needs of our students, which is a problem. And I've had conversations throughout the state in regards to that about funding some programs and providing some money just to make sure that those programs are there. Because we're fortunate in the regards that we're large, and where we can, we have developed programs. You go back over time, we might have one program for the entire district that existed at one school. Now we have that at multiple schools. As I said before, the goal is to expand that even further. We want students to remain in their home school neighborhood. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that right now, but it's a goal that we have and we're moving toward that. So we're looking at reframing the entire special education department in the manner in which we do placements in terms of class sections as we move forward with that goal in mind. And that means that we need to be very calculated when we look at the needs of the students, the increase in the enrollment, and the fact that a program may or may not exist in one area or a few areas within our school district. We are cognizant of that. I understand the frustration that's shared by some of our special education parents when their student needs to go across town to another school because the program designated for their child does not exist within their home school. It's improved dramatically, but it's something that requires more work. And in order to be able to accomplish that, it's going to necessitate a focus at the administrative level as well as the board level and a commitment to ensuring that this happens. It's imperative. Now is the time to move forward. We simply are seeing students with disabilities that we have not seen before. And it's very, very challenging for when we recognize these disabilities and we go through the testing process and find out maybe that not only do we not have this program in the district because it's something that has become an increasing issue over the past couple of years, they may not even have it in our region. So my suggestion here is, and I've worked with Mrs. Montoya in the special education department, we have to continue to plan for what we see right now and what we may see in the next 3 to 5 years. So we don't find ourselves in 2 years or 4 years in a situation where we need to have a massive overhaul. We need to continue to expand the programs, and the programs are working. But we need to make sure that we provide them in district if possible. I understand the parents. They don't necessarily want to send their kids not only to a school that's outside of their neighborhood, which I totally understand. They don't want to send them out of the county. We don't want that either. But it's going to take some time for us to be able to put that together and make sure that we do it in a manner that is equitable for all of our families and all of our students. We will continue to work in that direction. I am confident under the direction of Mrs. Montoya, as I was under the direction of Mr. Zip, that we will continue to make enhancement in these areas to provide our students with the programs and services not only that they need, but they deserve. It's not going to be an easy process, but it is a process that is ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mark, for that statement. Cheryl, do you have a question?
Yes. I know that Mrs. Broadbell oversees a caseload of students who live in the district who are receiving CPSE services in preschools around the county. But since we've started our own UPK program, are we finding that we are identifying any additional students in our program, and are there supports available for those students who are in our buildings and in our community partnership sites?
So we are finding increases in our programs as well. For the most part, related service programs aren't as difficult to be able to obtain. So if a student needs speech, OT, PT, or even see it, those are available. The agencies will travel to the buildings to provide those supports. What we're finding the increased need for preschool is the smaller class settings. So there is some discussion, especially with RJ Rutgers, as to whether or not we can consider maybe making one of our UPK programs an integrated co-teaching program at some point. So we are looking at those pieces to see if that would be a viable solution for some students who need more than just the related services.
Eddie, you have a question?
Two things. One, I'd like to make a motion for an additional 5 minutes.
Motion second, all in favor? Another 5 minutes.
And then my second question, well, first question really for Ms. Montoya, just to piggyback on what Dr. Bach had said, this is a 3-year plan required by education law. So my question is just based on the vision and obviously the goals that the superintendent has. I'm sure you have and all of us sitting up here have. Any changes or modifications to this plan would then have to come back to the board, okay, to then be approved once again. It's just based on the direction and the vision that Dr. Bach wants to go. Okay, just to clarify that for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Marie Johnson.
Yes, I'd like to piggyback on what Dr. Bong said about expanding some of our programs. I think when we're looking at this, expanding our programs, seeing exactly where we're at, I think we also need to be in conjunction with the space that we have currently available. Right now, our schools are maxed out in all of our classrooms, and sometimes these special education settings require a lower number of classroom students and more space for certain types of classes. So we need to be cognitive of looking at possibly having to look at our buildings to see if we have to revamp how we house some of our classes and also our grade levels within these. I think that is something that needs to be put on the radar. I'm putting it out there because bringing in the pre-K into our district instead of sourcing it out, I think would make more sense because we have more control over it.
If I can just respond to that, I totally agree with you 100%. And unfortunately, due to the space limitations that we have in some of our buildings, it may be more prudent to establish a program in a school other than it is established due to the capacity concerns. So that's another issue that we also have to examine, and we have to continue to take a look at our enrollment and see exactly where we believe these individuals who are already receiving the services that we're going to have to plan that they're probably going to need to continue them for a while, and where are we going to be able to include that, and what do we need to be able to do to try to include that in a school that if it's not in their neighborhood, it's pretty doggone close to it. Thank you.
Mr. Lungi, you have a question?
Yeah, is it possible to provide the board that tonight the number of students, each of the programs, instruction, intensive instruction 1, 2, 3, and 4, both schools? If you can provide the actual number of participants in those programs.
Absolutely.
Thank
We'll get you that.
Any other questions? Peggy?
And also the number of children receiving related services on each grade level and in each school.
Okay.
Julia, excellent presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Very explanatory.
Thank you.
We can move on now to approval of the special education plan 6.04.
Resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education hereby adopts the Wappinger Central School District 2024 to 2027 Special Education Plan as mandated by the Commissioner's Regulations Part 200.2C.
Motion. Marie Johnson, second by Peggy. Discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. 7.02, support staff personnel list. 701, I'm sorry, consent agenda resolution. Anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda? I see no one.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the following consent agenda items as stated. 7.02, 7.03, 7.04, 7.05, 7.06, 7.07, 7.08, 7.09, 7.010, 7.11, 7.12, 7.13, 7.14, 7.15, 7.16, 7.17, 17.18, 7.18, and 7.19.
Motion, Marie Johnson, second by Peggy. Any discussion? So moved. I'm sorry? All in favor, I'm sorry. All in favor, unanimous. Moving on to 8.01, approval of corrective action plan for external audits.
Whereas the Board of Education, having approved the external audit report as presented at the September 30th, 2024 board meeting, and hereas the Board of Education has also received the corrective action plan, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the corrective action plan as recommended by the board's audit committee and the superintendent of schools.
Motion, Peggy first, Virgil second. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. 8.02, approve the new club charter for John Jay High School.
Resolved that the Board of Education does hereby approve the new club charter for the